Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the OnePlus 5T, specifically why I'm not the biggest fan of it. And this phone is a very good all-rounder, and I've made another video where I highlight why this is an amazing phone. And be sure to watch that before you make any assumptions and decide that I am bashing the OnePlus 5T. I've noticed that in the past, people tend to take these videos in the wrong way. So let me just explain this very quickly to you guys. So I make two videos, one where I highlight the good things about the phone and the things I like, and another one where I highlight the things I'm not a fan of and the things that aren't that good about the phone. And I do this after using the phone, so I don't do it immediately out of the box. I use it for a while, get to know it before making these videos. I make these into two separate videos so that it's easier to follow along and to know exactly what's good and bad about the phone. So be sure to watch the other video. I'll link it somewhere above here so you guys can see what the goods are and you guys can know what the bads of this phone are as well. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video and let me tell you why I don't like the OnePlus 5T. Number one, I'm not the biggest fan of this design. So not many of you might know this, but this is actually a blatant copy of not the iPhone 7 Plus as many might think, but actually the Oppo or Oppo R11, whatever you want to say it. OnePlus and Oppo share a parent company, which means that they share a lot of things. And unfortunately, the design for the OnePlus 5 and the Oppo R11 are identical. They're basically the same phone with different internals. And it's very... I want to say that the R11 in the first place is a ripped off design of the iPhone 7 Plus or 8 Plus, which is, it's a good design, but I was just looking for a little bit more individuality or something that defines the phone a little bit better. If you remember the OnePlus 3T and the 3, those were really unique phones. They didn't look anything like their competitors, and I respected that. OnePlus, had their own unique styling language, and I was actually happy about it. However, the design language is very boring now. However, it is very comfortable, it is very usable, so that definitely does go into the advantages side, but the design overall, I feel that something a little bit more unique would have benefited OnePlus. So number two, continuing on with the look of the phone, this is about the feel of the phone. So the metal phone, so the Midnight Black and the Lava Red version of this phone, the ones that have all metal on the back, are extremely slippery. These phones are made with a very smooth aluminum back, and they're not the most confidence-inspiring when it comes to holding on to the phones because they're very slippery, and if you have the slightest bit of sweat in your hands or if your hands are a little bit wet, this phone is not going to be easy to grip. It's going to feel slippery, and not just that. In regular cases, you can very easily see the phone will start to slip from your hand, which is not a good thing. So, I mean, there is a case provided in the box, so it does solve that issue, but still, a lot of people prefer to use their phones without cases, and most people won't be able to because of how slippery the phone is. It will definitely feel a lot more riskier to have it without the case. Now, I'd like to point out that the sandstone version of the phone, the white version of the 5T, doesn't suffer from the same problem. While I haven't used it, the one thing that is clear is that the back is of a different material, so that means that it's a lot more grippier. So that is a good thing. So it doesn't affect all the OnePlus phones, just the ones that have this smooth aluminum on the back. So moving on, the camera. So I'm not the biggest fan of OnePlus's cameras, and I've done a lot of testing comparing the OnePlus to a lot of other phones, and just a sample shot from the iPhone 10 versus the 5T will show you guys that there's quite a lot of difference between the phones. Now, understandably, those are way more expensive. They have a lot more money put into the cameras as well, so obviously there's going to be a little bit of a better result there. I feel like they prioritized the wrong things and kind of lost out on what they could have perfected. Now, I'm sure that in the future we'll get better cameras, but for right now, the main things that bug me is, one, the secondary camera isn't that helpful. It's decent, but doesn't really do much for me. I haven't had too much luck using the second camera to get good shots. The primary camera is decent. However, you need to take your time with it. You need to work the camera to get good results. It's not like you can just take a photo like on the Pixel or the iPhone and immediately the first photo you take is going to be excellent. You need to give it a few tries and really work the camera to get the best results. You can get some very good shots. I'm not saying you can't, but a lot more effort needs to be put in to get those shots. And another key aspect that bothers me is that there's no OIS on either lenses of the OnePlus. So now all the dual camera phones in general have at least one OIS camera, and in some cases both the cameras on dual lenses are OIS supported, so that means that they both have motors moving around in the camera to stabilize video. Now, this has EIS, which works, but when you compare it to a phone that has OIS, it's very clear that the OnePlus is lacking in that department. And I'll have a clip here so you guys can compare what a clip from an OIS phone and this EIS 5T looks like. So let me just add that clip right here. Now both of the phones are rocking 1080p 60 FPS, Note 8 on the left, OnePlus 5T on the right. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to walk around, move around a little bit, show you guys what's the stabilization like. I won't be able to tell until it's onto the computer and I can review them again, but it's looking like the Note 8 is doing a little bit of a better job, so we'll see. So number 5 is a weird thing that I really didn't expect to have an issue with, but I do, and that is the on-screen keys. Now the on-screen keys on this phone are very weirdly spaced together, and when I first saw this I was confused because I'm like, is that it? They're so the screen is so big, but you have these on-screen keys that are so tightly put together, and there's no reason for them to be this tightly put together. They could easily be spaced out, and what often happens is you end up hitting the wrong button when you didn't mean to. So since all the keys are so close together, there's not really a lot of room for error when it comes to hitting one of these buttons. So if you accidentally go a little bit to the left or right, you hit the wrong button instead of the home button. So you might hit the back button or the multitasking key, which gets annoying really quickly. And the one thing about this I don't understand is why they had to do that and why there's no customizable option that lets you select something that will space it out a little bit more. This is something that can be easily solved with a software update, and I really hope that OnePlus gives a solution to this, because the older phones didn't really have this issue because they had the capacitive buttons at the bottom of the chin, which the 5T no longer has, so you rely solely on the on-screen buttons, and I really wish they were a little bit better spaced out. And I really hope that in the future we have some more options that let you customize these keys and space them out as you want them. So moving on, this is the last and final point about the OnePlus, and this doesn't particularly pertain exactly to the 5T. It's not something about the device that I'm not a fan of, but it's something about the company as a whole. And there's a few points here. So number one is that I feel like there's way too many refreshes and way too little bit of a time. So this phone was released in November of 2017, and the phone before this was released in June of 2017. So not less than 5 months later, we have a refreshed phone, and that means that anybody who bought the phone from bought the OnePlus 5, its predecessor, from June to November, is going to be really upset that they didn't wait or they didn't know that a new phone was coming out. In fact, I have a friend who used the same phone, an iPhone 6, for 3 years from 2014 to 2017, and he finally pulled the trigger and he bought a new phone, which was the OnePlus 5. And believe it or not, 1 week after he bought the phone, the 5T came out, and he was so upset because he waited so long and he didn't upgrade his phone, and finally when he did, his phone is already outdated a week after he bought it. So just think about how so many consumers must have felt when the 5T was released not even 6 months after the 5 came out. Now, this is a problem that I feel like could be very easily solved. Just push the updates a little bit further. Now, again, OnePlus has confirmed that the new phone is coming out. OnePlus 6 will be coming out in June. That's about 7 months from when this phone was launched, so very weird that they have such a quick refresh cycle, and it's very clear to me that a lot of customers are getting aggravated with this refresh cycle. Another thing that I'm not a big fan of is how many variants of the phone OnePlus launches after the initial launch. So initially this phone was only launched in this midnight black color. After 2 weeks, the Star Wars edition came out in India. So it was a sandstone white phone with Star Wars at the bottom and had a red alert slider key, so it had this white sandstone back with a red console. It was a very cool looking device, and a lot of people were upset because they bought the midnight black without knowing a new white one was coming out. Same way, China got a lava red edition around the same time that India got the white one. Then after a couple of weeks, the US markets got the white edition, and then now after a couple more weeks, the Indian market is getting another lava red, the same one that was sold in China. So it confuses me as to why OnePlus has gone with this weird strategy of releasing new variants of the same phone every couple of weeks. And it's very clear that the consumers are annoyed, because I've seen in comments and people talking as to how they're aggravated that they didn't have the choice to buy a different color phone. So a lot of loyal customers bought the 5T immediately when it came out, and not even a week or two later, the newer variants of the colors come out, and they feel very upset that they weren't given the choice to buy those phones because they were loyal and immediately bought the first phones that came out. So that's something that I do think OnePlus needs to work on. What they need to do is release everything, all the variants at once, and maybe you could keep a special edition phone for a couple months down the road, like you did with the OnePlus 3T, where you released the Midnight Black version a couple of months after the original phone came out. One of the final issues I have, which is a little bit more nitpicky, but I think that OnePlus really needs to get an eye on this, is pricing. So the original OnePlus One came out at $299, and that phone was meant to be the flagship killer, and that's where OnePlus got their kind of fame, as to they were providing the flagship level specs in a phone that cost not even half of what the flagships were costing back then. And just in the matter of 3-4 years, OnePlus has become almost as expensive as flagship. So this top spec OnePlus 5T comes to $560, the 128 gig with 8 gigs of RAM, and that's ridiculous now, because just compare it to 3 years ago when it was $299, the price is almost doubled. Now, the price you're paying to get what you're getting is definitely worth it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a ripoff. All I'm saying is that the brand is moving its pricing strategy way too much. They increase prices very inconsistently. So every time a new phone comes out, the price jumps a little bit. And most people don't notice. But now looking back at the first phone and looking back at the 5T, you clearly see where that gulf has came up. And just for reference, guys, the iPhone has cost $649 for about 7 years. And this is the year, after 7 years, Apple has finally made up their price to $699 for the base model iPhone. And even if you look at the iPhone 10, which is $1,000 now, comparing it to $649, it's about a 35-40% gap between the price and the launch, and that's about 6-7 years of that price. On the other hand, OnePlus has raised their prices almost 100%, very close to 90%. In just 3 years. So I'm unsure where the future is leading. And if OnePlus keeps upping their prices like this, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out for them in the future. So those were the 6 reasons why I don't like the OnePlus 5T. This is a great phone, don't get me wrong. It's very well priced and it's really competitive. It gives you features that phones almost twice the price fail to give you. And it's very cool to see that there are still brands out there that are proving flagships wrong by not having to price them so high. However, you know, no phone is perfect, so there are some flaws with this phone that I hope get improved in the future. Now, there are a lot of things I didn't point out, such as the lack of water resistance and a lot of other things that I feel that were unjustified because this phone is supposed to be budget. There are things that they're going to cut out, so I'm okay with that, and I think that there's an acceptable loss when you are paying half the price to flagships, and that is what the OnePlus is doing right now. However, as we're moving forward with these price increases, I slowly can't see them not including these features. So when the next OnePlus comes out, it either needs to be really aggressively priced again, or it really needs to give you all the features that the flagship does and still give you at least a little bit of a discount to really entice buyers. And once again, guys, please do keep in mind this is a 2-part video. So there is another video where I talk about why I love this phone. So don't think that I'm being biased towards the phone and just pointing out why it's not good. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for that video and a lot more videos coming in the future with the 5T. Hit that bell icon to stay up to date with when I upload those videos. Also, follow me on social media. I post all the behind-the-scenes stuff of filming and when I'm testing these devices. So be sure to follow me there for all the updates and behind-the-scenes stuff. All the links are down in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.